right, welcome to a special episode of Off the Record. Today, I'll be wearing my hat as a Youth Advisory Board member for the SubOptics Foundation. Now, what the SubOptics Foundation is a non-profit organization that specializes in research and education of the sub-fiber network community in the world. Today I have with me, and by the way, my name is Ari Shaw. Today I have with me Mr. Caswallon Duncan. Mr. Duncan is a specialist in the field, and he would introduce himself much better than I would.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caswallon Duncan. I am the Assistant Director of the Information Technology Service Division, with responsible for network systems and service support. This includes the government fiber optic backbone, which is a countrywide network. It includes internet service, the government PBX and the 911 PBX, and such like.
Right. So, Mr. Duncan, what would be the best definition of the fiber optics cable for someone who's just finding out about it?
Fiber optic cable is something that resembles a piece of wire, but instead of using, let's say, a piece of metal like copper to transmit, the signal, it uses light. In terms of in the tube, you flash. The inside of the tube is like a mirror, right? Where you have the light goes through and you have multiple total internal infraction.
Okay.
And the light it takes the light from one end to the other, right?
Okay. And they're the reason why we're able to have internet and such in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes, well, internet from overseas and so on, because you have subsea fibers and so on coming to the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what would you say are the most critical challenges that the ITST faces in ensuring telecommunications and IT infrastructure remain resilient during disasters? We recently had the volcanic eruption in 2021, followed by last year's Hurricane Beryl. So what are some of the challenges and how are they being addressed?
Well, as rightly stated or hinted, St. Vincent and Grenadines, we are a tropical country. And we are also a volcanic island, in the sense that we have lots of rain in the north, into the north of the island, and on the sea we have other volcanoes like Kikum Jenny and Kikum Jack and so on. And then we have a rainy season, in which we have a lot of flooding and so on. Now, while the ITSD, one of the challenges the ITSD has, for instance, is that we do not run our own subsea cables and so on. We don't own that. And whatever happens there affects us. As you know, one of the things that we frequently get, sometimes we don't feel them, but we get a lot of earthquake because the islands of the Caribbean really align at the edge of what tectonic plate margins, where the science shows that the American plate is slowly going under the Caribbean plate.
Okay.
So because of that now, we may have, frequent volcanic eruptions, and we may have things like earthquake and so on, right? These things dated way back many years. For instance, you might have heard, let's say, of the disappearance of Port Royal city in Jamaica that once used to be the capital of Jamaica at one time, right? So we have these challenges. The government, together with Digicel, establish a countrywide fiber optic network.
Okay.
Right? We have fiber optic cables running to pretty much all government buildings on mainland terrestrial fiber. On mainland St. Vincent and the Grenadine Islands are connected via subsea fiber. That would be the main islands of Mustique, Bequia, Caswallon, Union Island. And you have other islands that are important, When I say important, the bigger ones are connected via frame relay. Not frame relay, sorry, microwave.
Okay.
They're connected via microwave. Towards the end, the northern side of this country, knowing the terrain, the topography of St. Vincent, very mountainous and so on. As we know, Second to Dominica, St. Vincent is the most mountainous island in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So we have a subsea cable, a festone going around the northern side of the island to connect the to complete the fiber loop that would feed internet and communication services in Vincent Grenadines. I think during the eruption of the Lassifere, that system got broken, right?
Yeah.
And because of the difficulty in getting the terrestrial fiber to run from the inside of the island on that side to traverse these mountains going on the other side, we have that challenge. You understand?
Yes.
So once that part of the ring is broken, on this redundant system, some sites towards the north of the island do not receive connection.
All right.
Right? And that is something that we're working hard to correct. Right?
So you're in the process of correcting it, but what is the goal really? How is the challenge being addressed?
Well, the challenge, in terms of addressing the challenge, we have been speaking to the suppliers and we have been discussing internally and so on in our technical meetings and so on as to how we can get this done. There are several things, in terms of modern technology and so on. You have things like Starlink and so on, right? We can probably look into maybe in the near future get some type of connection that that does not depend on this type of persistent terrestrial physical infrastructure, but feed a wireless signal, internet signal to these sites and so on, and that we can do so give access to the sites via VPN in that case. But I think we are also looking still at getting a terrestrial run from maybe Chateaubriand all the way going over to probably Sandy Bay across there. So we
Okay.
go complete that ring.
So where there aren't roads.
So where there are, in these cases, there are no roads. So it's like, this is something that would be like greenfield, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Innovative. And I think if we get that done, a lot of people, islands in the Caribbean and maybe elsewhere that are of a similar nature and have similar challenges would want to see what we have done to really get that.
All right. So in a case like that, how do the various stakeholders, the government, the private sector, and non-profits like the SubOptics Foundation, how do they take a unified approach to these challenges?
I don't know. I think the government itself has a vested interest to ensure that communication is available to its people and to make the communication available so that there will be ease of business and so on in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So we can develop industrially and so on. And bring access to the schools, to the homes and hospitals and clinics and so on. So if we were able to penetrate that side of the island, it would be successful. But in terms of a unified approach with the private parties and so on, I am not really too sure how that goes because we are living in a very competitive environment, right? Very, very competitive environment.
Yes.
And I would think that if one of our suppliers, the main ones being Digicel and Flow, if one of them want to be able to penetrate that side of the island, they will want to make sure that they reap as much benefit from it as possible in terms of should there be clients there or houses or businesses in that area, they want to ensure, for instance, they're connected to Flow or Digicel, respectively and so on. Now, maybe the government would probably need to weigh in on a thing like that to ensure, for instance, that the rules are playing their fair and that bandwidth can be sold from one party to the other. And, the competition is based on the quality of service and so on, instead of the infrastructure. Because I have some reservation, some reservation where we are a small island developing state, and taking that into context, the government may not have the capital to make certain, type of capital investment where the sums are very large, especially bearing in mind our physical makeup, topology, the rock types and so on, all these mountains and so on. But I think the type of contracts that we need to be making is to bring all these parties together, all these stakeholders, right? And to maybe draft up a type of contract where, for instance, we can accomplish this thing, make the penetration, run whatever infrastructure, and over time, these people would get back their money through services. They're able to, but the infrastructure must belong to the state because we are a small island state. You understand me? I do not believe. I'm good. This is something that might sound wrong, but I do not believe, for instance, in these small island developing states, no foreign company should come and have that type of processing infrastructure in the ground, where the government should be the one paying. You understand? For eternity to give benefits to the people. But we have, like you're saying, this type of public-private partnership Catch me? Where the people realize that there are real benefits for the people, and that the government can leverage whatever contractual arrangement they have. Catch me? To infuse, whatever policies for betterment.
Yeah, so what you just explained, you would say those are the current gaps.
Those-
So once those are rectified,
Yes.
then you believe that there's a better way
There's a
forward
better- yes,
for
yes.
unified approach.
Yes.
So what do you think are the emerging technologies or innovative solutions that are being explored or implemented to enhance disaster preparedness and recovery in telecommunication and IT systems?
Now, as mentioned before, right, we are a small island developing state. And in particular, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we're about 32 islands or so.
Yes.
We have nearby St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, and so on. Under the Caribbean, not Caribbean, the CASIP.
CASIP is what?
It's Caribbean, I forget what the name of the thing. Anyway, it's under this project, the government of St. Lucia, Grenada, and Dominica established subsea fiber going connecting these islands, and terrestrial fibers on the islands and so on, connecting the different businesses and so on. In Grenada, they have set up a data center, for instance, right? In St. Lucia, they're setting up a data center. In Dominica, they have a data center. And the government of this country right now, one of the most beautiful things it has been done is that the government is in the process of, under the digital transformation project now, setting up a data center.
Okay.
Right? To deal with things like disaster recovery. You understand me? And it is being set up in duplicate in a way that to have this type of resilience, should one break down, the other is up and so on. Not only that, going back to the fiber infrastructure, it is built on a ring topology, something called without getting too technical, is an MPLS network with two cores and maybe about 23 distribution sites. The cores now operate in a ring. Should one core go down, the other comes up and feed the ring.
Okay.
Right? And on that now you have distribution sites. The distribution sites sit on the ring. Should one end of the distribution site fail, the other one continues to feed it. So, right? So that kind of make it difficult for things to fail in that sense. The government has also installed its its PBXs and so on in duplicates. You understand me? We try to do everything in duplicate in a way that should something go down, something is always up. And in terms of the information technology service division, we also have other backup sites and so on that where we replicate the data across. We also try to ensure as much as possible we put in generators into these sites, and we may be looking soon to probably at these major sites put some sort of solar energy also that can can be able to capture that thing and so on, right?
Well, you mentioned CASIP, and for those listening, is the
Caribbean Digital Transformation
Caribbean Regional Communications Infrastructure Program, which
yes.
the no, it slipped me. The Digital Transformation Project. I feel like I'm saying that wrong.
No, the infrastructure project established the fiber optic infrastructure. Now, like something that one of our principals had said, we had now that we have built the road in terms of putting on the infrastructure that was established by the CASIP. Now we must put vehicles on the road.
Okay.
And out of that now, the Prime Minister came up with, and the government came up with this brilliant idea of establishing this digital transformation project, in which we are changing the way things are being done. You understand me?
Because I know it basically is implementing a paperless government.
Yes.
But it goes much deeper than that.
Much deeper than that.
All right. So what are the long-term strategies you just mentioned? One, what are the long-term strategies or policies that are being put in place to anticipate and adapt to the evolving nature of disasters due to climate change and technological advancements?
Now, having stated some of the challenges that we face in terms of our uniqueness as St. Vincent and Grenadines, for the volcano, what the government has done is to set up a whole heap of monitoring sites. Understand me? Now, maybe if you compare the election of probably 1902 as opposed to that of 1979, and this one is in particular, we noticed that we were better prepared.
Yeah.
You understand me? We were better prepared, and that is because the government was able to set up a lot of monitoring systems, and they from working closely with NEMO, they keep trying to improve on these and to install even more. You understand me? And give them more capacities and so on. So what the government would have done is leverage, for instance, the same network established under the CARSIP to set up these, right?
Yeah.
Because imagine now you have a government that has network connection everywhere, presence everywhere in the country. It is easy for them to put a monitoring system in Barley, one in Chateaubelair, one in Spring Village. Basically anywhere. You understand me? There's a fiber connection, they can set up a monitoring system.
Because I believe there's also in Fancy a few like in the Orange Hill area coming down straight.
Even
to
right in
Johnston.
Peter's Hope, you would see one right there opposite the school in the place and so on.
Yeah.
So through that now we are able to, if there are any seismic activities and so on, we want all and so on. And in terms of the hurricanes and so on, we try to leverage some of the resources that we do not have, for meteorology, like from outside and so on, collaborating with people internationally, maybe in Florida and so on, so that we get early warning as to what is going to approach us. Because I think some years ago I was in a bank about to get some money to go and pay my insurance, property insurance, right? While standing in the bank, wind started to blow like crazy, and somebody say, there's a hurricane. We're getting a hurricane by tomorrow morning. It's like, what? A system just came upon us like that. You understand?
This was how many years ago?
That's some good years back, yeah?
Okay.
That's some good years back. Right? That time, Clicker was still there and so on. And
so more than 20 years ago.
Yeah, so my insurance was a Click on so, you know what I mean? But now, the government has made such investment that at this point, it is not so easy for us to be caught with our pants down.
Okay.
Because as part of that resilience, disaster resilience and so on, the government also established an emergency communication system. Understand me? That, to deal with these shortwave radios and so on. You get me? For fisher folk, that can be used by the police, that can be used by the health system and so on. And that even at the ITSD, we have a couple of these radios and so, right? And the CASI broadband network is used as the redundancy for that. So should something fail there, it can fail over to that system and so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So is it possible for you to share specific examples of how your sector, what exactly was your sector's response to previous disasters, informed changes or improvements in your disaster resilience strategy?
Now, as you're aware, right, the government is about to launch a number of critical systems where they're trying to do paperless and put a number of critical systems online, offer 24-hour services. So if the government is going to be able to do that, one of the things is that the network must be available at all times. So we ensure, for instance, that we are following an information security management system, like an ISO certification, that would help us to get all our ducks in rows, right?
Okay.
So right now, the ITSD is ISO 2700 certified. So based on that, now we have various policies dealing with certain things and so on. And one of those certainly would look at the infrastructure we have and the gaps, right? Internally, we do internal audits to ensure that these systems are working. And once a year, we also have external audits and so on. The government, right now, we operate on a network that's countrywide, and we are always looking at it to try to improve it in terms of to ensure that there's redundancy between major sites as one, to ensure, for instance, that they get optimal bandwidth. And some of the challenges, we mentioned challenge, and to show where we're trying to correct that. I don't know if you remember the passing of Hurricane Maria?
Maria?
Okay. Throughout the Caribbean some years back. And we specifically looked at the ISPs that have their connection running on poles and so on. In countries where those exist, those countries were, they've got major hit and so on. If you look around Kingston, the government has made special effort to ensure that all infrastructure as much as possible is underground. You understand me? That is to ensure should there be a flooding or some hurricane, it do not be knocked down in that sense. Right? Yeah. Should not be knocked down in that sense. So we continuously look at our systems and we try to see how we can, for instance, improve the bandwidth capacity on the infrastructure, and two, to replicate the infrastructure in a way that should something break, there's something automatically feeding it. Yes.
All right. So what would you say, like in terms of cybersecurity and scalability?
Now, in that sense, sorry. In that sense, right now we are in the process of establishing a national CSOT and a government CSOT.
Okay.
Right? The government have for plenty years. I've been doing a lot of training where cybersecurity is concerned. And I think since way back in 2010, 2015, yeah, under the national under the National ICT Strategy and Action Plan, the government mandated there that it would establish a national CSOT, right?
Okay.
And throughout those years, various people have been sent to different places, to study this thing and so on. Under the same digital transformation project, one of the components that the government is implementing in terms of maybe by next year at this time, or maybe by August or so, we should have a government CSOT and a national CSOT.
Okay.
Right? We're looking into, for instance, the government CSOT would respond as constituent, have all government agencies on its wings, and at the national CSOT level now, we would have representation from the government and from the different sectors, banking, what have you,
Yeah.
the supermarkets, businesses, and so on, right? Now, if you the technology that we have today has reduced the world to a global village, yeah? And what comes into one window is in the house.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
Is in the house. And it therefore means we need now to ensure that should something get into the house, because we are connected. Because we are connected to Grenada, we are connected to Barbados, we are connected to St. Lucia, they are connected to the United States, what have you, is to ensure now that should something happen, we have the capacity on the ground. You get me? In terms of human resource, in terms of the technology, you get me? To be able to respond appropriately. And in such, we also establish regional cooperation with entities like CARICOM Impacts. Yes, and as soon as the CSOT is established, we plan to register with South America and eventually with FOST.
Yeah, but all of these initiatives come at a hefty price. Could you give a ballpark figure of how much it costs to develop such infrastructure?
I do not have a total an answer completely to that, but what I know is that the government is taking it in bite size, right? Because we are in a world where we can't be left behind. Although we are small, we must be counted and accounted for. And I think I like the approach to that the government has towards that, right? That although we are small, we are mighty as a nation, right? So, having said that, we may have limitations of resources in terms of we are a small island with 110,000 people. Notwithstanding, we have to develop the capacities that we can, and where possible, we establish regional structures that we can escalate an issue to, right, within our own Caribbean civilization and so on, and if needs be external to that. And why that is particularly important, right? You might hear people say, "Oh, let's put a thing in the cloud." That might have some sense, but you have to look into deep things, isn't it? What can we put in the cloud and what can we not put in the cloud? Should we make our own cloud? You understand me?
Yeah.
And for governments, especially because we are sovereign countries, right? As much as possible, where we have trust models that exist, like in CARICOM, like in the OECS, was first look at exploiting those trust models to set up data replication across our islands. Because you may find when you set up a data center, you may not need to buy servers. That means you might not have need for a particular cadre of people. And at the same time, an Amazon does not come down to the Caribbean to establish a data center.
Yeah.
Right? And they would have issues, for instance, putting their data, the government of the United States data in St. Vincent. So my question is, why should we put ours in theirs? You catch me? So this element of trust and the fact that sometimes you have to pay to access your data in the cloud, it raises the question of ownership. If you have to pay to access it and then you can't pay to access it because your priority is here with limited resources, kind of tight, then your data is not yours. So therefore, the government now need to look at exploiting what we have and see, based on our classification of information, what can we share and who do we share with it.
As we wind down this informative conversation, where do you see us as a nation in terms of development in these areas in the next 5 to 10 years?
Watch me. I see St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the verge of taking off. All right? With the plans I see now and where we are going, I believe even in the next 2 years, we will not be the same.
Okay.
Honestly. Now, imagine yourself going to the customs, the port to clear a barrel. Okay? And you have to go to 5 different places to get the things done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In some ways, they have simplified it, in terms of the re-engineering the process. But now imagine through vSwift. You know what I mean? Single window.
Also
Right.
on the digital transformation.
Also on the digital transformation. Yes. And now imagine now you're buying a piece of land and having to do a transaction for the land and so on. Government is putting all of this stuff online. You catch me? Imagine, for instance, the kind of thing that they're doing even now, right now, what in the next few months, you'll be able to pay all the taxes online, do all the business online. You catch me? Because we are so many islands on that archipelago. My friend, a man want a marriage license, he had to come to St. Vincent now. He want a date about a birth certificate. We are putting an end to all of this stuff. You catch me? Now, look, a simple thing, and this is a major thing, simple but major. The government is already issuing cards to people on public assistance. You understand the point I'm making?
Yeah.
That's a major leap forward as part of this whole digital transformation.
And same with disaster response, issuing cards
Exactly.
to assist persons.
Exactly.
What do you call it again?
I would have had the privilege, to be sent by the government to Singapore to attend some sessions there and so on. And one of the things that they handle there would be the digital transformation and how they evolve, and especially under the COVID. COVID changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
And they would have changed dramatically within that period in terms of the way they do business, again. Because at all times, the government must be able to serve its people. And one of the things I had liked about them in terms of the way they developed their thing, they had a program for the elderly. Catch me? Where they have a little internet program and you see them some card business and so on and so on. So they fall along, you just press a button and, they connect whoever in whatever health system and so on, and they get the necessary aid and so on, and so on. They've had a kind of reporting system that anybody from anywhere, once they see an issue, they could register that issue. It goes into a central repository, and from there they send that on to the respective agency and all these things. You catch me? Yeah? But in a way, their form of government is kind of different in that everything is run by statutory corporate. They have ministries. Ministries only deal with policies.
Okay.
Everything is run by statutory corporation. You understand me? So they have more traction and getting things done and so on.
What I was trying to remember is the income support cards. That's what I was trying to remember with the hurricane relief and such. But
that is a step in the right direction.
Yes, it is.
You catch me?
It is.
Yeah.
But this was quite the informative conversation. Thanks a lot for joining me.
No problem, brother.
Mr. Duncan. If it is a person who want more information on what we just spoke about, how can they receive such information from ITSD?
The truth is, any communication coming to the ITSD must go to the office of the director of ITSD, which is Mr. Caswallon Brown. You understand me? And he would, point it in the right direction, in the sense that in the Information Technology Service Division, we have the admin section, we have the section responsible for e-government services, and we have the section responsible for IT maintenance and so on. And yours truly would be responsible for network systems and service support, right? Yeah. So like, for instance, if somebody wanted to host something with government or app department, we will send it to us. Catch me? And so on. We will ensure, we are the ones who in the back now who ensure that engine keeps running.
Yeah.
Yeah? We ensure that engine keeps running. Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Nice?
Well, thanks a lot for watching, and this has been Off the Record.
Nice.